The Mariners just lost a disappointing series to the Miami Marlins this weekend. Joe and I are going to talk about what went wrong in this series and what to look forward to for the Mariners in the next few games. We're then going to talk about a spot on this roster that might need to be replaced sooner rather than later for a guy who just, as much as we love him, is not performing up to expectations. We're going to move on to maybe a bright spot, something to look forward to with this season right now, because I think we're all in a pretty dark spot as Mariners fans, and we're going to wrap it all up by talking about the Tampa Bay Rays series coming up starting today. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 98 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the Ian episode of the podcast, and I'm here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
I wish I could say good. Today was a day for Mariners fans around the world. 4 earned to Bryce Miller in the first inning. Game, I don't want to say over in the first inning, but it was going to extras if Bryce Miller continues to just allow for. Mariners couldn't get the comeback fully. 2 losses to teams I probably pegged as like 90 lost teams, series losses, the Nationals and the Marlins. 2 series losses against those National League East teams, not on my bingo card for 2024, Colton. Yeah, Mariners notoriously have lost some pretty rough series overall, but betting odds would have said they win those series. Not this year, though. Quick word from BetOnline. Thank you to BetOnline for being a sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball and golf and soccer, and even all the top fights in the UFC, MMA, and boxing, BetOnline has you covered. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the games are over, though, you can head on over to the online casino, get into a game of blackjack, poker, or even unwind with over 150 different slots games to choose from. Head to the website today to get in on the action and use promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, for your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online. The game starts here. Arguably, not even arguably, no contest, no debate. The game I am most frustrated with in recent memory, I would say, aside from maybe the Royals collapse. Like the Royals collapse is definitely probably keeping its title, but 2-3 loss in the first game to the Marlins here. You score early, you only get 1. You score again in the second. Oh, you got 2 runs. Oh, nothing for like 7 innings. Offense just goes to sleep. Take a nap. We're hibernating. It's the winter in Florida, apparently. Abysmal game from the offense in the first game here. 10 strikeouts. 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Like, it's just not good. Just not good all around. George Kirby, I think, pitched well enough. A very aggressive Marlins team. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2-run ball. Those were 2 solo home runs on, pitches that they ambushed. Like, very aggressive Marlins team. A very, I'll say it, bad Marlins team. You let them stay in this game. You did not put yourself out in front in this game. Mariners lose this in extra innings. They had runners on first and third with no outs in the bottom or the top of the 8th, top of the order in JP, Dylan Moore, Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, Dylan Moore got hosed on one of the calls. Don't care. You have to do something in that at bat. And they don't. They come away with a loss in game 1. This game, unfortunately, I don't want to say set the tone because game 2 is like a complete like flip of the script. But this definitely put a very bad taste in our mouths as Mariners fans.
Yeah, after the game, that's not often that I tweet like I'm just going to take the rest of the night off. Like, because I'm always thinking about this team and about the Mariners in general, but that game specifically, I'm like, no, I can't think about them. I can't talk about them right now. And thankfully, I didn't have to. The Mariners, like you said, in the top of that 8th inning, just abysmal, man. I mean, J.P. Crawford doesn't move the runner over. I believe it was like a little weak pop-up to like center field or something like that. And then Dylan Moore gets hosed on the inside corner, like you said. But yeah, should have gotten the job done there somehow, some way. And then Julio just swings at 3 sliders like outside. And that's the inning. That's that. After the bottom of your lineup in, I believe it was Rojas and Ryan Bliss.
No, Robles and Ryan Bliss.
Robles and Ryan Bliss. I think Rojas came in for, whatever. Doesn't matter. Ryan Bliss had a 3-for-3 game with an RBI. He was great. in this series. Other than the third game, he wasn't too hot, but he's heated up a lot at the plate recently, which I think is nice to see. Kind of maybe change where we're at in terms of with this team when Jorge Polanco comes back soon. Otherwise, in this game, I mean, not much to write home about. JP with a hit, Julio had a hit in this game, Victor Robles, and then Ryan Bliss had 3. Ryan Bliss had half of your hits in this game, Joe. The pitching staff, I mean, yes, both came in that bottom of the 10th inning and gave up the run, first pitch, whatever. It was a bad pitch. Obviously, the throw from Canzone, like if he has just like a tiny bit of a better arm, the runner's hosed at the plate. Who was running?
It's Jake Berger. Like,
Jake
yeah,
Berger.
it's a short hop.
Wasn't it Jake Berger hitting?
No, Tim Anderson hit.
Oh, right.
Sure, like Cal gets a short hop, a tough one to read. The ball gets to Cal and Berger's like 2-3 steps away from the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Cal's say positioned further back, lets the ball travel a little bit more, he still has time to field it and tag him. And Cal owned up to it in the post-game stuff, and we all knew that was going to happen. There's a lot of discourse around that specific throw, that specific play. I think there's fault on both sides. Yep. Ultimately, it shouldn't have got to that point, though, is the big thing about this game is you should never be in that situation against the 25 and 49 Marlins heading into that game. So, yeah, just not a good baseball team on either side. And one of them has to come out with a win. Unfortunately, it was not the Mariners. They do turn it around in game 2. It was a 9-0 stomping, but it looked like they were just kind of coasting through it. I didn't really feel like, yeah, it was great to see them score runs. I didn't feel particularly moved by it because the first game is still maybe kind of like lingering. A great, brilliant gem from Logan Gilbert, continuing to etch his name into Mariners history this year, potentially being the 2024 All-Star representative. Very, very exciting for him. I was a part of the crew that maybe wanted the complete game shutout. I understand why he didn't go do it. I get it, guys. I get it. But it still would have been fun. A little silver lining for this series, maybe. A great game from Dom. 4 hits in this one. Like you said, Ryan Bliss stayed hot. Another 3 hits in this game.
Trade, guys. I mean, they had 9 of the 15 hits.
Went crazy in game 2. Ultimately, it was a scratch start from Jesus Luzardo in this one. So they've got, his name, Shane Anderson.
Sure.
Created player that no one's ever heard of. 3 1/3, 8 hits, 5 earned. They get to the bullpen as well. Like, They definitely stepped it up in game 2. They gave them a shot to win the series going into the third game. Colton, anything you want to touch on from game 2? Maybe Garver's 0 for 5?
Yeah, that's not great, but I wanted to be positive, Joe, but it's fine. I want to be positive a little bit.
Julio's off day?
Yeah, Julio was off that day. Luke Raley made a great running catch in center field, but I was like, oh my God. Was that the game that Raley also had a triple?
Yeah, galloped into third.
Fastest triple of the year for the Mariners, faster than Ryan Bliss.
6'4".
Isn't that wild?
He's running.
Logan Gilbert, I think the moment that really was like, oh my God, like Logan might have this the whole way is when he started the 4th inning at 21 pitches.
It's like, wait.
That just goes to show how aggressive the Miami Marlins are and how bad of a baseball team they are, obviously. But then Joe, going into game 3, that bad baseball team took it to Bryce Miller.
Yeah, I don't want to use ambush again, but you gave up a 3-run home run to Nick Gordon. Yeah, he's got 7 homers on the year. Yeah, Nick Gordon hit a 3-run homer. Later, Jesus Sanchez gets Bryce Miller again in the bottom of the 3rd. A total of 4 innings, 6 hits, 6 earned for Bryce. 3 Ks and 2 walks. Brings his ERA to 3.9, closing in on 4. Hopefully he doesn't ever get there. You want it to stay below 4. Another start that just gets away from Bryce and leaves you wanting more out of what your starting pitcher is giving you. If the starting pitching is not keeping you close, it feels like the game is almost all for naught. I feel like a lot of the times, Mariners are scoring 4, getting 7 hits, striking out less than 10 times. To me, that's starting to begin the recipe of success for a winning game. You're telling me like the pitching staff can't hold other teams below 4? We've seen them do it, I'd say, a large majority this year. They just shut out the Marlins the game before, kept them to 3 the game before, but this just happens to be one where Bryce gives up 6. The Mariners only amass 4. Had a chance in the top of the ninth. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Julio stings a line drive, but I don't want to say straight at the second baseman. He had to make a good play on it, I will say. Otto Lopez, I'm pretty sure he was there over there at second base, but a chance maybe ties the game, but does end in sadness for our Seattle Mariners. Colton, let me know.
Do you think that Ryan Bliss should have bunted in that inning? Runners on first and second, no outs.
First and second, no outs.
Down by 2.
He flew out in foul territory?
No, I think he popped out to like the center fielder or something like that.
Oh yeah. That sounds right. Bunts.
Of all people to bunt, I think that him and Luke Raley are the 2 I trust the most.
I could see. I mean,
but also he's been hot, so it's like
situational stuff. I could see maybe that getting called. It's probably something where Bliss kind of has his own checklist of like what he's got his own decision. I don't think it was something that would have been called. It's like, okay, what do I feel like I'm gonna do? Yes, he's been hot this series. Not particularly did very well in this game. Could that have been a moment of like a get me over situation of like just get the bunt down, try and do something kooky? Could have worked. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Doesn't matter though. Mariners lose regardless.
Yeah, because I know that in that inning you have Ryan Bliss come up and he flies out to center field or whatever it was. So instead of moving the runners over, let's say hypothetically he gets it down. I love hypotheticals. You know what I mean? Let's say hypothetically he gets down, runners on second and third. The next at bat, and obviously this is not how it works because he would have been pitched differently had the runners been on second and third. But J.P. Crawford lines a single into right field. I don't know if both guys score there.
It is Mitch Garver at third and then Cal Raleigh at second. So even then with like the bunt situation, like the chances of that's a whole other bag of worms of do Garver and Cal both make it to the respective bases?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know what I mean? In the end, this is not the game that upsets me because you lose a game where the starting pitcher, I mean, you're built on pitching. The starting pitcher just doesn't get the job done. It is what it is. Like, Bryce had a bad game. I mean, there's no 2 ways around it. He had a bad game. It is what it is. I mean, he's had them, I think, more than most people have this so far this year. But when it comes to like when that happens, it's the offense in and night out that's the problem. So if the starting pitching has a hiccup here and there, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna happen. The offense, I mean, they scored 4, which isn't great. It's not terrible. Off of a guy named Kyle Tyler.
Yeah, we just 2 first names. Ugh.
Yeah, maybe you should score more off of a literal creative player, like you said earlier, in Kyle Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just like you have like a 4-year-old trying to figure out a name, and his best friend's name's Tyler. His name's Kyle.
He's like, oh, Kyle like, Tyler.
Oh, we can both be Kyle and Tyler. You know, you keeping that in?
I might.
You should keep that in. But as it goes in this series, Joe, again, a big tough loss to the Miami Marlins. Obviously, we think that maybe Brian De La Cruz should be on that plane with them. And if he was to replace somebody on this team, Joe, Mitch Haniger went 0 for 2 in this game. He's had a really rough season so far. I tweeted it and said, I love Mitch Haniger. I really do. He probably should not be on this baseball team past July 30th or 31st, whatever it is.
The hard part is you're on the hook for whatever you owe him this year and $17.5 million next year. Mm-hmm. No one's going to take the contract. It's not going to happen. I think they probably keep him around for clubhouse presence, morale type of guy. I've seen a lot of comments about like coaching. Yeah, like it's a weird situation. Yes, he is batting .213. His OPS is just above 600. He has not looked very good, not very competitive at the plate. 1 for 14 his last 7 days, 5 games played. It's just not good. You're not getting the production that you need, that you were getting earlier in the year with Mitch Haniger when he first, we're starting hot at the beginning of the year. You've got other options that are simply better than him right now. And I'd even go as far to say that, like, Victor Robles should probably start over Mitch Haniger, given how he's hit against left-handed pitching. He's batting like 364 in his plate appearances and at-bats with the Mariners so far. it's a tough situation. It's a tough pill to swallow. If there's a guy that can wear it on the chin better than anybody else on this team, I'd say it's Mitch Haniger, though. He knows what's going on. He knows that his performance is definitely bringing the team down in some respect. Not to say that Victor Robles is the hero that's going to save the day. You mentioned Brian De La Cruz is like, whatever, that position of right field, right-handed right field DH bat, it needs filling, and Mitch Haniger is not filling in those shoes right now. It's hard though. I just don't like what they can't do anything. They're handcuffed because of the money. They could release him, sure, but like they're not going to do that. That doesn't seem logical in my brain given how much they've praised what him coming back meant, and also just who John Stanton is as a guy how he operates with his money. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, Colton.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I still think he shouldn't be on this team past July 31st. As you said, it'd be really hard to release him because of the money owed to him. Maybe they find a way to bad contract swap him like they did with Robbie Ray. Like maybe, I don't know who it would be. I don't have anyone off the top of my head as we talk right now, but maybe they swap a contract with for an overpaid reliever somewhere. Just
maybe
to see if
Ryan
they can turn
McMahon
him into something.
with the Rockies, a contract, the contract that everyone hates that Ryan McMahon is attached to, but they love the player. I know the Rockies aren't shopping him, but like that's an idea that came into my mind. Obviously, you're gonna have to give up more than it's not just a 1-to-1. Like there's weird situations there, but yeah, I guess a bad contract swap could happen, but it's just
basically it's just he's hurting the team. On the field. Off the field, I'm sure he's great, and I'm sure he's a huge clubhouse presence for that team. And he's, like you said, he's been praised all season. On the field, offensively and defensively, he's hurting the team. And because of that, he's got to go. And this is the year. Like, you can't mess around with guys like that this year. That's why another reason why I think that like they gotta, when Jorge Polanco comes back, they give him a month, maybe a month and a half, and if he's not doing well, I don't know. Like, sorry. Got to cut bait. Got to go to Ryan Bliss the rest of the year. Sorry. It's just, you have to be aggressive this year. And I love Mitch Haniger. Again, I do. I know I caught flack for saying he's going to be a Mariners Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Mariners Hall of Famer. You guys can suck it. I think that you got to cut bait on him. And if you have to eat the $20 to $17 million, whatever it is, so be it. Like, obviously you can't just Phantom IL the guy. Yeah. Like the rest of the year. So I don't know. I also don't know what the right answer is, but I just don't think that he can be on this team for the long haul. If you want to make the postseason this year, you need to put the best team on the field, and that best team does not include Mitch Haniger, which sucks. Which absolutely sucks. I was so excited when he came back. I was so excited when he got off to a hot start. He's one of my favorite Mariners ever. He is probably the worst player on your 26 man right now.
Definitely like the odd man out on a team that is still performing pretty well relatively to what we've seen on this road trip. They're 10 games above 500 still, with having probably several guys that are underperforming, maybe a hindrance to this team. If Mitch Haniger goes and it means more playing time for Luke Raley against a lefty, that's fine. But again, you have other options on this team that can be available to you if you're still like, Luke Raley shouldn't see left-handed pitching. Even though he's definitely helped you win more games than you've lost. Colton, the record this year on this date at recording this, June 23rd, 45-35, 10 games over 500. Can you tell me what it was last year?
Yeah, Joe. So to give a little premise here, everyone's losing their minds. Right now, the Mariners just lost 2 of 3 to the Miami Marlins after losing 2 of 3 to the Guardians. The Mariners today sit at 45-35. A year ago today, they were 37-37. They were 500 a year ago today. You want to know 2 years ago, Joe? The year they made the playoffs?
I'm going to guess 32-33.
32-39. 7 games below 500.
My heart.
7 games below 500, and they made the playoffs that year. The Mariners have built themselves a cushion, and I'm not saying that means take the foot off the gas. Don't. But what I'm saying is, Mariners fans, we're not used to this, so I don't blame any of us. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm pissed about the loss to the Marlins. It sucks.
The sky's falling.
The sky is falling. But what I'm saying is as Mariners fans, we've never had a cushion where we can afford for stuff like this to happen a little bit. And we're afraid because we've seen that where the team has looked really good before and has fallen flat. We're afraid that that's what's happening again. I don't think that's what's happening again. Obviously, time will tell. But with the resources the Mariners have, they should go out and make trades sooner rather than later, like we've talked about a lot, to right the wrongs. And yes, this is a time where you have your lead is down to 6 games on the Astros. They just swept the Orioles. They're hot right now. The Rangers are hot right now. The Rangers just got Max Scherzer back, who pitched a hell of a ball game today versus the Royals. The time is now for the Mariners to go out and make moves, but they still have a 6-game cushion, and it's not, you don't want to get complacent with that. But looking at how it's been the past few years, it is leagues above where they've been in the past few.
It's weird because how sustainable has the pitching been for the Mariners? Like, that's kind of the crutch. That's the make or break. How, I guess, unsustainable, or like, I don't know what the right word for it is, but like, will the Astros winning ways continue? They were losing a bunch earlier in the year. Is this them righting their ship? Is the Rangers, going out and sticking it to the Royals? Is this them righting their ship? Like, whatever woes were happening, are they now permanently fixed? Of course not. I don't think this Mariners team is going to continue to go 5-5 the rest of the way. They're not going to continue to lose series to bad baseball teams. They've shown this year largely that they can go out and beat some of the bad baseball teams. They can stay competitive and not get swept against some of the better teams like the Royals, the Guardians, the Orioles, whatever. But it's so hard for me sometimes to take a step back and be like, okay, we'll be fine. Eventually the Astros and the Rangers will lose. Like, they're not going to play on this pace the rest of the year. It's how you mentioned a ton at the beginning of the season last year when the Rangers were the Murderers Row Yankees offense and playing to a clip that they've never seen before. And they fell off hard in the summer and ended up not winning the division. Sure, they won the World Series. I get that. But it is still June. There's still time for things to progress, to change, to develop in certain situations, like how we replace that right field DH right-handed bat, whatever. How the pitching looks continuing going forward. I don't think Bryce Miller, every single start out from the rest of the season, starting today or tomorrow, is going to go out there and give up 6 earned runs in 4 innings. That's just not how it's going to work. Like, things will, I guess, naturally regress to a mean. And if that mean is 10 games over for the Seattle Mariners by the end of the year, that puts them at what, 86 and 76? And that's like only going 500 the rest of the way. I don't see that happening.
I agree with that because as of, I think this morning, they were at a 570 win percentage, which is it equates to like 93 games or something like that on the year. If I did my math right. Did I do my math right there?
You're so good at math.
Thank you so much. And so, I mean, 93 games, if that doesn't win you the division, especially with how bad the other teams have played, I don't know what the hell would. So, do I think that the Mariners are going to go on this historic run where they're winning a ton of games in a row? Not necessarily. They're not going to have a month like August last year. But the Mariners put themselves in a spot right now where if they lose a series to the Marlins, it sucks, but it's not the end of the season. And it's just so much nicer to put it into perspective. Right, where you can look at previous years. Mariners made the playoffs in 2022. They missed it in 23 by 1 game. And right now they have, 8 more wins than they did in 23 and 13 more wins than they did in 22. Like, how can you be anything but bullish on this team right now, especially with everything that they have said going into this trade deadline, that they are going to make moves, that they're going to go out there and make the necessary adjustments to this team. Whereas in years past, they've said, okay, well, at 37 and 37 and 23, they're like, well, we're going to trade our closer. Mm-hmm. We're going to go ahead and get rid of him. Bye, Paul. Sorry. Like, the team doesn't deserve to be added to. In 24, it is very clear that this is a team. They're in first place. They have a cushion in the division. They need to be added to. They deserve to be added to. And as they go on, Joe, to play the Tampa Bay Rays, a team that I think might be selling at the trade deadline. It's tough to say still. As they go on to face the Rays, Joe, yes, Brian De La Cruz should be on that plane, but there's still plenty of time for them to go out and add some guys to hopefully take down the mediocre pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays.
A 38 and 40 record for the Rays on the year so far. Taj Bradley on the mound opposite Brian Wu in game 1. Bradley, a 4.06 ERA on the year, highly touted prospect for the Rays. That's a pretty common thing, I think I'd say. Prospect and pitching for the Rays, they go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's just what they do. And then they get hurt. And then they have 4 more waiting in the wings.
And then they have to start paying them money and they trade them.
Exactly.
Chris Archer, David Price, Tyler Glasnow.
Well, the Chris Archer one turned out actually pretty okay for them. But
yeah.
Brian Wu, opposite him, 3-1, a 1.67 ERA on the year. Didn't have his best stuff last time out against the Guardians. His first start back, though. Hopefully he's feeling better going to that one. Taj Bradley, his last 2 starts out. One was against the Cubs, 7 innings, 3 hits of 2-run ball, no earned, 11 Ks. So he's got the strikeout stuff. He always has. The most recent start against the Twins, 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned, gave up a home run in that one. He's gettable. You can definitely get to Taj Bradley in game 1. Overall, the pitching for the Rays has definitely been a letdown for them compared to maybe what they're used to. They're not career, organizational norm, I guess is how you'd word that. On the year, they are currently sitting at a 4.38 ERA as a team, 24th in all of baseball, behind the Oakland Athletics.
Yikes.
Which is,
really?
Yeah, wild.
Wow.
Right? A 4.35 for the Athletics. Not just, not trying to take a dig at the Rays, but that's kind of step it up, guys. As a team, their offense, it's right around Seattle's. 98 WRC+. Arozarena's having a rough year. Yandy kind of got off to a slow start. Josh Lowe was injured. Brandon Lau started to pick it up. They've got some boppers in their lineup. Obviously, Isaac Paredes is a very common Mariners trade target.
Yeah, he'll be on the plane.
Yeah. Him, exactly. Like, you should leave. The good thing is, they're still in Florida. You can still leave on the plane with Brian De La Cruz and Isaac Paredes if you really wanted to. It's still possible. Just tell them to make it to whatever airport they'll fly out of if there's one in Tampa Bay. There's got to be one in Tampa.
I'm sure there is.
Maybe it's in St. Petersburg.
Have you ever, seen how hard it is to get across Florida, bro?
No.
Miami to Tampa, they're not close. I was looking at spring training in Florida.
Yeah,
bro, it's in Arizona, they're all an hour away at the most.
Mm-hmm.
In Florida, it's 8.
Oh,
it's wild. Anyway,
that's definitely less than ideal for you, I guess. Crossing stuff off your bucket list like that. Definitely not ideal. Something else that's not ideal. Transitions. Mwah.
Transitions are weird.
Castillo against the Rays. That's not ideal for the Rays.
Didn't want to talk about that first game at all. It's fine.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I see some old friends. Alex Jackson is one of their catchers.
Sure.
Remember Alex Jackson?
Yeah, he's an outfielder.
Mariners' first round pick in 2016.
He's catching for them now.
Yeah.
You got Cabby.
Yeah, Cabby will be there. I mean, yeah, in terms of the Rays offense, nothing special. I mean, if Randy somehow, pulls it together randomly, or if Isaac Paredes goes off against you, obviously there are guys you want to avoid. And then it's probably Paredes, Yandy, and Randy. But otherwise, you shouldn't be too worried about this Rays offense, especially with the Mariners pitching staff. But, Joe, Luis Castillo, maybe we should be worried.
Why would we be worried about Luis Castillo?
I don't know. It sounded like you were going to say something not ideal.
No. It's not ideal that the Rays are facing him.
Oh, not ideal for
the
them.
Rays.
Got
1-0 with a 2.37 against the Rays in his career. Only 3 appearances. But last time out, 6 innings, 4 hits, no earned, 8 Ks. That was back in September of last year. Luis Castillo, opposite Zach Littell.
I believe it's Littell.
Probably Littell. Last 2 times out against Minnesota, similar to Taj Bradley. 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, gave up a home run. Pretty similar line there, just less distance. The start before that, though, against Atlanta. Not a little score line against him. 2 innings he went. 8 hits, 6 earned. Bro got rocked by the Braves, so he'll set his career high against the Braves. He'll set his career high. He's 2-5 on the year.
12 tomorrow.
Yeah. A 4.2 ERA for him on the year. I like the chances with Castillo on the bump. Didn't have his best stuff against the Guardians, right? I think that's pretty common against for most pitchers. I'd say against the Guardians. It's tough. They're a tough lineup. This Rays lineup definitely worse. Worse than the Guardians. Castillo should be able to go back out there and be a stabilizing force, be a stopper. We need it. We need it right now. If, Miller, bad start against Miami. Brian Woo's not going to be able to give you a ton of length. So the bullpen's going to be taxed in this first game. And then going to the game on Tuesday, Castillo has to give you 7.
Yeah. I think that you're spot on when you talk about Brian Woo, because who knows? Who really knows what we're going to get out of Woo in this start? Because obviously in his last start, he was like, oh, he wasn't feeling the greatest or whatever it was he said, right? And maybe it's just because he was pissed off about how poorly his start went. But Woo has been kind of the wild card for this team recently. So if the bullpen is taxed from his start, because there's a decent chance that he only goes 4 or 5 innings,
probably,
then Castillo probably needs to go out there and give you 7, because at that point, with George on the mound the next day, I mean, George had a great start versus Miami Marlins, but you can't have back-to-back days with the bullpen going long and then expect George to just have to go out there and shove. So as long as Castillo is vintage Luis Castillo in game 2, I think George will be all right in game 3. They do have an off day after that on Thursday, flying home to Seattle on Thursday. So, maybe it's time to rest the bullpen. Do you think we see Polanco?
I hope so. I feel like it's a situation where they might need that little boost coming off a series loss against Miami. But if they'd rather him just chill out in Washington, not have to worry about the travel, I can understand why. Just have him be fully ready, fully rested for Minnesota on Friday. Like you're saying, they are playing for that off day. This 9-game road trip finishes out on Wednesday with George Kirby on the mound, like you said, against Ryan Pepio, part of the Tyler Glasnow trade. You said George Kirby was great his last time out against the Marlins. His last time out against the Rays, though, Colton, is that infamous start where he shouldn't have been out there for the 7th.
Oh, no.
That was the last time George Kirby pitched against the Rays
really?
In Tropicana. He went 6 1/3, but gave up 4 earned that home run to cap off that start. Hopefully there's no nightmares. There's no oogie boogies for George in Tampa. I don't think there will be. I think he's definitely matured since then. Got more of that bulldog mentality that all those old guard starting pitchers were well, now no one's ever going to want to give you the ball, George. Brr. Whatever. George is going to be fine. I'm not super worried about that specifically. Pepio opposite him. Last 2 starts did not make it past the 5th. 4 2/3 against Atlanta. It is Atlanta. 6 hits, 5 earned, 3 homers back on June 15th. The 21st, most recent start against Pittsburgh. Only 3 1/3. 3 hits, 2 earned. Did walk 4 batters. Got to 74 pitches and they got yanked. So it seems like one that maybe you get to the bullpen early. Hopefully you've expended some of them in the previous 2 games, so you're not facing some of their premier arms like Pete Fairbanks or Jason Adam. I like our chances with Kirby. He's pitched well in general in his career against them. It's just the most recent one is the one that probably leaves the most sour taste in your mouth.
Leave Tampa with Pete Fairbanks.
And Isaac Paredes.
And Brian De La Cruz. Yeah. The 3 right-handed starting pitchers in this series. So you're basically going to see Luke Raley and Dominic Canzone every day. And both of them have played relatively decent lately. That's one of the reasons why I think Polanco might come back for this series is 3 righties on the mound.
Fair.
With obviously Bleav being right-handed hitter, they kind of have had him in mainly versus left-handed pitching. Maybe the rest of the way they do decide to platoon the 2. I don't think that's what they should do. Obviously, with Polanco being a switch hitter, Bleav probably needing everyday reps. But with 3 right-handed guys on the mound, I think there's a good chance that we see Haniger just on the bench this entire series, unless they face a tough lefty out of the pen. I don't even know who they have in their bullpen other than Fairbanks and Adam. So is Ryan Yarborough still there? I have no idea.
Nah,
don't
he's
care.
On the Dodgers. Colin Poche and Garrett Clevenger are the 2 lefties.
Got it. So yeah, so if those guys come in, I would expect to see Dylan Moore and Ryan Bleav off the bench if Polanco comes back, and Mitch Haniger and maybe even Tyler Locklear if Polanco doesn't come back. So Overall, I feel confident about this series. Obviously, the Mariners are much better versus right-handed pitching, I think, than they are versus left-handed pitching. You just feel better about that lineup day in and day out. I think it's still important, though, that they go out there and kind of make some additions as soon as this series. And I think it's very important they just make a trade right now, Joe. And we have that video on the screen now. Go ahead and check that one out. We appreciate you guys watching episode 98 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by Bet Online, the Y2K episode, and go Mariners.